What is your working definition of mastery?
Well, mastery is a process, and you have to love the process. You can't just be oriented towards the goal. Just think, I'm going to be so great. You have to enjoy the actual process of it. So I spell out that process in detail in the book. But the reason I wrote it is when you reach that high level, which is the highest level of mastery, and I call it you have an intuitive feel for it. The thing that you're studying is inside of you. If you're a football player, the field is inside your head, right? If you're a piano player, you've internalized it. That is such an awesome feeling. I've had moments of it like that in my work, in my writing. You reach this point where you don't have to think anymore, and ideas come to you. And so that is what our brain is designed for. We have this insane instrument, the human brain, certainly the most complex organism in the universe, as people say. The mathematical possibilities of connections in the brain are absolutely infinite. It is something that every day we should just wake up and marvel at this thing that we've been given, this insane tool. But people don't use it right. They don't know how to use it. They don't understand the insanity, the marvelousness of this instrument, right? So I wanted to show you that if you understand it, if you move with it, if you develop it in the right way, you can have these powers that are incredible. And the pleasure that you have when you reach that level, because it takes a lot of hours of work, a lot of drudgery, a lot of tedium, a lot of practice. But when you reach that level, it's hard to explain how joyous the feeling is that you have.
There's the magic that I know of you, is that you have this combination. I'm nodding my head for the audio listener to everything you said, but you have this way of being nearly dogmatic, and that's not quite the right word, but emphatic maybe is a better way of like, this is how it is. Yeah. And then at the same time, you leave space for me in this conversation to say, how do you see it as well? You have this way of doing those two things, which I think is really unique.
I never thought of that. That's interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it is a high compliment, I think, because when I read and listen to your work, you are clear, concise, and emphatic about your point. And you made it, which is like, this brain is amazing, and people don't use it right.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree. And then, so let me add one more piece to the bit of mastery. So you talked about the phases, and it begins with an apprenticeship. And if we open that up a bit, before you start the path, people, I think, are disillusioned a bit about how long it takes to experience that embodied sense of mastery. We want it now. We look at others and we say, well, they have it. They must be born that way. We know at some level that we do need to put in work, but we're not sure exactly how to put in that work towards mastery. And so you've pointed at the apprentice phase. And so can you just open that up at the beginning of the apprenticeship? How does somebody better understand how to position themselves towards the path of mastery, as opposed to an apprenticeship to make money, an apprenticeship for an outcome that is also desirable?
Well, we've skipped a step, because the first phase of the process is discovering your life's task. And that's the key to everything. It's the key to having a fulfilled life. It's the key to being happy in life. It's the key to reaching the goals that you want. Because what it is the process of self-understanding, self-knowledge. You have to become aware of what you were destined for in this life. You were born a unique individual. And it's a very interesting thought. It's the same kind of thought about your brain. There will never be another Michael Gervais. Your DNA is unique. The way your parents brought you up, their DNA is unique. The way they brought you up is unique. Your early experiences. You are a true individual, right? And that individuality is, I would compare to like a seed, right? It's been planted in you. And your destiny, your fate in life, is to know what that seed is, to know who you are, what makes you different from everybody else, and to cultivate it. And if you don't understand that, the apprenticeship phase will be misery, because you will start trying to learn and do things that aren't suited to your nature. Your brain has what I call a grain to it. And there's a book that I tell people that I like a lot called The 5 Frames of Intelligence by Howard Gardner. And he basically shows that there are 5 different kinds of intelligence. We tend to overemphasize the intellectual, the analytical skill, but there's musical intelligence, pattern intelligence, mathematical intelligence, there's social intelligence, there's kinetic intelligence, which has to do with the body and movement. There are 5 of them. I don't remember all of them.
Yeah.
You have one of them. There's one of them that's stronger than the others, right? It's where your brain naturally gravitates towards. And if you don't have the right fit, if you're launch your career, you go into law because you think it's going to be making a lot of money, but in fact, your brain and your that seed was made for something else. You're going to end up hitting a wall at some point. You're going to be burning yourself out, and your life will take bad turns, and things will, you will never reach the goals that you want. And so, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what makes you different, then the apprenticeship phase is useless.
Yeah, and we're skirting the kind of the obvious is mastery of self and mastery of craft. Mm-hmm. And I am far more interested in mastery of self. The craft is just a unique working laboratory to better understand it. Where do you orientate, mastery of self or mastery of craft?
Well, these are words, and really mastery is an organic whole, and it's kind of hard to separate the two, because yourself is the craft and the craft is yourself. So the dividing line is very fluid. And so the craft is what's training you. Like writing books has changed me. I'm not the same person. I am the person who writes the books, right? And yet I bring myself to it. And to reach that level, I've had to master myself. And it's been a very arduous, difficult process. It took me many years. I didn't have success until I was basically 38, 39 years old. I was up till then quite a bit of a failure. So the process of mastering myself was very, very difficult, but you can't separate that from mastering the art of writing, So if you're just mastering yourself, but you're not doing it for something, it's not connected to a goal, it's not connected to something concrete, then it won't mean anything. We have to live in a physical world. We have to be concrete, physical creatures. And the craft has limitations. You can't do anything. If you're mastering the piano, you can't just play anything. You have to learn the technique. You have to learn scales. There's a process, and it limits you. And working within those limitations develops you as a person, right? So the actual craft itself, the limits that it presents, and the process of mastering them is what will help you master yourself. You can't separate the two.
So I frame it as mastery of self through craft.
Okay.
So craft is, I like how you're saying there's limitations to it. I like that. And I agree in so much that I'm not that interested in what the craft is. It's almost like the excuse for the internal world that we all inhabit to be better understood. You pointed to the importance of self-discovery prior to apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So let me just go back to that.
Sure.
How do you think that people ought to better understand who they are? And or, if you want to take it a second turn on it, what their purpose in life might be?
Well, you're working against a culture that is trying to make it harder for you to do that, because everything is externally oriented. Social media, what are other people doing? All of your attention is focused outward on what's going on in the culture, what other people are sending signals through your phone. And so the ability to look inward at who you are is harder than ever before. It wasn't when I was growing up. I was an introvert, and it was kind of a natural process. If I were growing up now, I don't think I would have developed the same way, obviously. So you have to begin from the process of I have to know who I am, and it doesn't come easily because you're surrounded by voices. And the way the metaphor I give is that seed that I talked about, that individuality that you have, it's like a voice in your head. The great psychologist Abraham Maslow, he called them impulse voices. They're voices saying that this is what I like, this is what I love. And as you get older, you accumulate the voices of your parents, your teachers, your peers, the culture at large, and it drowns it out. You can't hear yourself anymore. You can't hear that impulse voice of what makes you an individual, of what makes you different, of what you love. So you have to understand that you're cutting through this vast cloud of smoke this screen that has been put in front of you that is preventing you from understanding yourself. So you have to look inward, and it takes time. It is a process like everything else. I do consulting with this, and a lot of people come to me with this problem, and they're in a hurry. They're in a hurry to know what their life's task is. I'm saying you can't understand that in a day or a week or a month. It's going to take years. It took me 18 years to discover the kind of books that I wanted to write, right? So it's a process. You have to begin like journaling. You have to kind of write down things. You have to become aware of the things that you love and the things that you hate. And I bring it down to a basic level. The foods that you love, the kinds of things that you like to drink, the clothes that you wear, just understanding what makes you different from other people.
Yeah.
You have to go through this process.